How's everybody?
Good.
Or good morning. I think it's still morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. For
Good
15
day.
more minutes.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
Yes, buenos dias. How's everybody? Hope everybody's well. Thank you for coming to this to our session. This is the parades and festivals discussion with the focus on not only what we do on a during normal years, I guess you could say, but also when there's crises and other things happening, like not only the fiscal crisis or the financial crisis, but also obviously post-Hurricane Maria. And even during Hurricane Maria, I think most of us got into action, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But before I get started, let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Luis Maldonado. I am now the chair of the National Puerto Rican Day Parade here in New York City. I've been on the board since the board was reconstituted in 2014. So this has now be my 5th parade. It's a labor of love. Sometimes I think I'm crazy for doing it because it's a major undertaking. And we are a volunteer board, but we do it with a lot of love, a lot of respect, and major dedication. And so for anybody who cares to know, I actually was born in Hawaii, raised in Cleveland, Ohio area, and then now have lived here in New York for about 20 years. So I sort of consider myself the poster child of the diaspora just because I've lived in different places. And my parents are from Guamo and Lares, and just proud to represent the community in this important event. Okay, we've been around since 1958, so we just celebrated 60 years last year. And this year, I'll talk a little bit about more after I introduce the rest about what we're doing this year, but obviously a lot of it is about rebuilding, recovery, and renewal of Puerto Rico after the hurricane. Okay, so introduce the rest of the panelists. Lucila.
Thank you. My name is Lucila Santana. I'm the vice chair of the Springfield Puerto Rican Parade in Massachusetts. And I have to say, this year we're being honored by the New York Parade as the stateside community being honored. We have been around since 1991. The parade was founded after Hurricane Maria, so for times like this. As the new board, interesting enough, we have similar stories as to New York. The parade was handed to us, community members, in difficult times. The same year that they also transitioned, we're a brand new board. This is going to be our 5th year. We are proud to say that we have brought the parade back to life, or nursed it back to life. We inherited a deficit and several things happened in our community, and we came together and have made it 10 times better. It has grown exponentially. We are also a volunteer board. We don't even have an office, but we're making it happen for our families from Puerto Rico and here. Also in Springfield, I'm part of the Springfield schools, their PR coordinator, and I'm happy to be here.
Juan.
Buenos dias, saludos. Gracias, Luis. My name is Juan Gonzalez. I'm the vice president and the parade coordinator of the Parada San Juan Bautista, the San Juan Bautista parade, which is the Puerto Rican parade in Camden, New Jersey, about a little more than 2 hours south of here, right across the way from downtown Philadelphia. So I'm an Eagles fan, but that's another story. Go Eagles. That's another story. But yes, and I am the son of Doña Ramona Gonzalez, who's one of the founders of the Parada San Juan Bautista back in 1957. So like the parade here in New York, the National Puerto Rican Day Parade, we've been around since 57. Last year, we also celebrated our 60th anniversary, and I'm proud to be a part of it. I joke about it often, but I was probably in my mother's womb at parade activities, and here I am ever since. So I'm honored. It's an honor to carry the tradition, and it's a lot of fun and a lot of work, as Luis said, but it's a labor of love, and that's what we're all here. El amor de la cultura, el amor de la patria. Gracias.
Tomas.
Buenos días. My name is Tomas Javier Rivera. I'm the promoter for la Fiesta de la Calle San Sebastián in Orlando. La Fiesta de la Calle San Sebastián in Orlando right now is the biggest Puerto Rican festival in Florida. It's a parade. We don't do a parade, and as a difference, we are a profit organization. We do the festival the weekend before the ones in Puerto Rico, and our main goal is to bring the culture from the island to the new people from the diaspora in Central Florida. As you know, we're almost now at 1 million people across Florida. Just recently from the Hurricane Maria, we just got like 350,000 people that came to look for the new adventures, as we said. And so that's why we're here. It's my 3rd year here with the summit. I've been working with the Centro that has been very helpful in trying to develop our new concepts.
Okay. Now, Tomas, I know you guys don't manage the parade, but Orlando just had its first parade, right? Just a couple weeks ago?
They did the parade 2 weeks
ago.
Right. Yeah, but basically people they were from the New York parade, and they did it for the first time in live TV for Channel 7 ABC. So it's growing,
right?
You know, remember the Puerto Ricans from the island, they're not used to parades. You know,
Right.
They used to go to the festival and the Chinchorreo and Maldonado. So they're trying to build up the parade, and this year it was very successful because big companies came over, you know, and politicians, you know,
right.
And it was pretty fun. And so I know it's growing. It's not going to take from 1 year to another.
Sure,
it's going to take. I probably give you them like 5 more years.
Of course,
they're going to be rocking.
Right, very good. And we'll talk about this in a little bit, but part of what we want to discuss too is how do the various Puerto Rican institutions, whether they're in the same city or perhaps in different cities, work together to achieve common goals, especially when it comes to crises like what we're going through right now. Okay.
Yep.
All right, but before we get to that, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about our organization, the National Puerto Rican Day Parade, who I assume most of you are fairly familiar with. As I said, we were founded in 1958. Currently, everything we do is committed to 3 things: arts, culture, and education. So obviously preservation of Puerto Rican culture, arts, promoting its history, particularly as the diaspora continues to grow, ensuring that future generations maintain their roots, and then we try and help use the parade as a platform to showcase the best of who we are, the best of our culture, and primarily so that the multi-generational families can help use it as a tool to educate future generations about who we are. No matter where you live in this world, continue to be Puerto Rican and know your history and your roots. And then specific to education, we have a scholarship program, which we're very proud to say last year we gave away 100 scholarships in the amount of $2,000. When we first started, we increased it to 15 from the year prior, and then every year we augmented more and more. We gave away more and more scholarships, and so last year we met our goal of 100 scholarships. And that's really, a key focus of what we do besides, promoting culture and arts and history and the best of who we are. But last year was a bit of an anomaly, as we all know, with the hurricane. As the hurricane was hitting, we were actually even before, because we all knew it was coming. We mobilized to really start activating the networks, not only with other organizations like the Hispanic Federation, the Puerto Rican Family Institute, Positive Workforce, but also with many of the celebrity honorees that we've worked with over the years. Obviously, they have broad reach, they have a lot of influence, and they could help. And so we immediately reached out to several celebrities. One that was just having a concert, Daddy Yankee. He had a concert in New York right after the hurricane. He had another in Connecticut, another in Chicago, and we worked with him to start collecting emergency items to send down to Puerto Rico. Many of the other celebrities, we worked for them to send messages and give calls to action and video so that we could use for social media purposes, not only for our social media, but also with our partner social media. Again, to mobilize, because a lot of what we have, because we're like you, we don't even have an office. We work virtually. We are all volunteers, so we don't have the infrastructure per se, but we have the reach, and we can help motivate our communities to take action and to work with those that do have the infrastructure. And so some of the organizations that have that, like I said, the Hispanic Federation. And so from the very beginning, we were promoting their donation drive, their monetary, the contributions that they were taking from across the country. Rather than setting up our own, because we don't necessarily have that expertise. We don't necessarily have, the infrastructure, so we helped partner with them. Similar to Puerto Rican Family Institute and Positive Workforce, we didn't have facilities to be able to collect items, to warehouse items, and the workers to be able to transport and to be able to arrange for storage and shipping. And so we worked with them to do that, and then we would just give the calls to action out to the community, tell people where to go, or if folks wanted to volunteer, they would reach out to us, and we'd help facilitate that whole process. So in the long run, we were able to give out close to, or send down to Puerto Rico close to 2 million pounds of emergency items and food and water and other necessities. Just working with different partners, working with different communities. We often gave, myself, with social media, letting communities know where to go in their own local communities by partnering with the different parades and organizations across the diaspora. And so I have a list. The biggest one that we did was with Cleveland, Ohio, obviously because that's my hometown, where they sent 5 trucks down of food, and we helped them in terms of organizing that. But then also Camden, Hoboken, and Newark, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Orlando, Fort Myers, Tampa, so a lot of organizations in Florida, Springfield, and they had another drive just recently, we helped promote that, and Hartford, Connecticut. So just trying to use the reach that we have, the partnerships that we've established through the parade to try and help, create synergies and promote each other's work in unity as opposed to trying to do disparate efforts, which is often sometimes the case that the organizations try and take, okay? That is in a nutshell what we did. And so I wanted to then now engage the panelists so that you could just very briefly tell us a little bit about your organization and then perhaps how you all managed the crisis and while the hurricane was hitting.
So the question was post Hurricane Maria and during Hurricane Maria. We actually decided that we were not going to reinvent the wheel, that we were going to partner with local groups who are working together. One of them was the Western Mass United for Puerto Rico, who came together because of Hurricane Maria, just because of that. We came together and we collected items. We partnered with the city, with different organizations. We also collected funds. We collected $180,000 that went towards Puerto Rico. We gave grants to different organizations, and we collected a total of 30,000 pounds of donations. Actually, next week, Camden is coming to Hartford, and she's coming to honor the Western Mass United for Puerto Rico, which is a great honor for us. It was difficult for us to decide whether or not we were going to do a hands-on approach because these are families. Puerto Ricans, we find that wherever you are, it's like your brother. But we took the decision that we had to focus on a parade, which is our goal. The funds that we received are strictly to plan a parade. So we decided that the work continues ongoing. We received 6,000 families in our region from Puerto Rico. 500 of them are living in hotels currently. Different groups like my sister, for example, founded this partnership to be able to adopt families. So she's working one-on-one with them to provide items like kids' clothing for a family who moved from Puerto Rico to Holyoke, and she had nobody. She was giving birth by herself. So we went to the hotel and went with her to the hospital, and we were able to provide clothing for her child. The work is ongoing, and I'm hoping that we can talk about later on what happened next.
Yes.
Families are staying, and we need to provide them housing, like we were speaking earlier, provide employment, and we have to work together. So that's part of what we're working in. Also, our Holyoke elected official, Josie Valentin, did a care package program, which was phenomenal. She worked through social media and collected items for families in the island during the hurricane and sent them out to them directly to the family. So there was no issues with distribution, which, as you guys know, during the hurricane was very difficult to send those items. She sent them straight to them, and which was great. I think that's the gist of how we did in Puerto Rico.
Juan? Yes, gracias. Well, first, part of the question is a little bit about, again, my parade, our organization in Camden, New Jersey. It's the San Juan Bautista Parade, la Parada San Juan Bautista. As I mentioned initially, started in 1957, so we're now going on 61 years. We're having our parade and festival and related events in and around the city of Camden. But now to the second part about the question about what kind of relief efforts or contributions toward the relief efforts as an organization. What did we do? Like in Springfield, Massachusetts, our organization, the focus is the parade and festival. We have a scholarship program as well to generate funds for our scholarship that we award to college students. But our focus as an organization is that, the parade and the festival and related events. But what individual members of our organization did, and as an organization, we partnered up with other entities in the area. Primarily, one of the biggest efforts was through a statewide, in New Jersey, statewide relief efforts to collect monetary funds, money. Okay, because yes, the supplies, water, food, clothing, all of that is necessary, but a big challenge was, how do you collect that? How do you store that? How do you sort that out? And how do you ship it? And as an organization, we were not set up for that. Right? And so, one of the big contributions was to join efforts, again, with the statewide, the state of New Jersey, efforts for monetary relief efforts. So we did contribute in that regard. Many of our individual members, myself included, participated in those efforts and collecting funds, monies to be sent to Puerto Rico. And I guess the biggest part of it is, again, as an organization, we have networks with either within our organization or with other entities around the area. And I think that's one of the biggest contributions that overall, in particular in times of need and emergencies like the response to Hurricane Maria. But that networking is a big aspect, a significant aspect of how Puerto Rican parades in particular can contribute to the community by just providing that infrastructure for networking. So I think that's a big contribution.
Were there other groups that you were able to work with
Yes.
to help expand and sort of join forces?
Yes. Around the city, and as I mentioned earlier, Camden is right across the way, right across the river from downtown Philadelphia. So regionally, we join efforts, join forces with different entities, be it private citizens, church groups, government officials, who kind of helped in those regards. Again, the biggest part of our contributions was in the relief efforts for monetary contributions, because that was a big part of it as well.
Of course. Tomas?
Well, I got a call from my partner and to see how we can help, it's a Fiesta Sunset. And we made a group we call Activados por Puerto Rico. Activados por Puerto Rico, we start doing our network because we got the network of media, sponsors, and all that, and we start putting together all the media together, and we start doing telethon, and we start collecting items. We partner up also with other promoters that they were having different places to minister. But it was so overwhelming that I started dreaming about water with Tanzania. We got 300 pallets of water, and we got Pampers and all that, but we didn't have where to put them, And also there was no coordination on how we're going to ship that to Puerto Rico. That was the biggest thing, People, they went to the street, and I never seen Puerto Ricans. They unite in Orlando. It was incredible. They're like lines to people dropping stuff. Like we need boxes, and people bringing boxes. It was so awesome. But we have nobody had the infrastructure to ship those items to Puerto Rico. There were promises of people, the government threw needles from Puerto Rico, but that didn't work. So we started touching bases with sponsors, and we started sending. We sent around 60 containers of ministers to the island. Of course, first we sent it to Unidos por Puerto Rico. We went to the mayor, and then we decided to go door to door to churches, to towns, and all that. And we got the help of Olga Dañón. He was the help getting volunteers. It was 300 people showing up. marking the cans so they don't sell it at the supermarkets there, you know, and sorting the stuff too, because they were medicine, people were dropping medicine, they were out of date, so we had to put everything together, you know, and so it was a big organization that we have done that I never done it before. You know, you have to be a container, you have to put all the items, do the manifest of everything, you know. So we learned, it was a learning experience, right, for the past, like, it was like non-stop. We're still working on it. So we coordinated with an organization that was called Casa de Apoyo y Solidaridad. And with the help of the city of Orlando, they gave us a warehouse. And then we put all the items there and we started shipping it out. We also went to the island and got products from Goya with the money that we collect. And they duplicate all what we got. Okay. And like 2 weeks ago, I went to Yaucoa with the hurricane hit, and those people are in really need. You know, they don't have no power. You know, I don't think they're gonna have power in 4 more months. You know, it's incredible when you go there and you see that destruction, like the baseball stadium. You know, everything is on the floor and all that. But we brought all the items in the island. You know, so we went to stores and grab all the items and we delivered to them. We went to Jayuya, we went to Toa Baja. There was a basketball court, and let's fix it, you know, and we fixed it, we painted and all that. But now we have to help the people that moved down from the island. They came out with nothing. You know, they are still in hotels, and I think the vouchers finish off on June, you know, and they don't have no place to go. There's no housing in Orlando. There's no housing that they can afford. It's incredible, you know, and they have people with disabilities, you know, and all that. And we're trying to put together everybody to see how we can help them out, because it's a lot of families in there, you know, and they're in really need. They lost everything in the island, but you know, they can't get a job in Disney, but for $7 an hour, you know, it's like they're not going to make it, you know. So that's our next challenge in June, you know, how is that we're going to help those people out, you know, try to get funds from sponsors or, you know, organizations to help them out, and also to make the voice to, I think, with the senators and all that, to help us out, with the governor of Florida that has been helpful too, because they put another month for those people on relief. But also we're doing free, with CASA, we're doing English classes to those people, computer classes, you know, and we're still working with that. We did a tiki celebration that people from Lean and the Hispanic Federation, they sent us like 200 toys. And that was so awesome to see those families, you know, with toys and all that, and partners. And this year, the Fiesta San Sebastián, we host the First Lady, Beatriz Rosselló, that came to the festival to say thanks to the people from Centro, Florida, for all the help and the support that we give to Unidos por Puerto Rico too. So it was very challenging hours. We still working on it.
Well, we're in it for the long haul. Yeah. And as many of my colleagues have expressed, we're now in this mode of dual relief, right? We're trying to continue providing the long sustaining relief that's needed in Puerto Rico to help with the rebuilding efforts there, while also trying to help the displaced that are in our own communities. Because, you know, you mentioned housing is tough in the Holyoke Springfield area. You mentioned housing's also in short supply in Orlando. Imagine New York, affordable housing in New York. Most of the people that have jobs here, that have been here, could barely afford their homes, let alone the newcomers that come with nothing, right? But it's our duty to help them, and so we're trying our best. And what I have found personally inspiring, and I'm glad to hear you have, it sounds like you have similar experiences, is that in many cases when community organizations may find it a little bit more challenging to work together, in this case, and because of the times of crisis, a lot of us came together and really tried to help build upon each other's efforts and partner, and again, build synergy, as opposed to trying to duplicate because of our differences. And so I think that I'm not just making it sound like it was perfect, but I think most of us were able to really sort of come together and in particular in the Unity March back in November, on November 19th, where many of us came together and joined in Washington, D.C., sent buses down, funded the buses so that we could have representation and make our voices heard. So now I'd like to shift the conversation from what we did to what we plan to do moving forward, because our parade is in about a month, on June 10th. We're often challenged with the question that we have been for years now because of the economic crisis. So how can you have a parade, a celebration on Fifth Avenue when Puerto Rico's in such dire straits? And now this year, more than ever. And it's a great question, but what we've often as a board discussed is what better time to have a parade, not only to uplift, but also to put the issues on the table, to make sure that they're part of the discussion, to make sure that we don't forget about that the common person. I mean, the parade is huge. This is our parade, and we can really gain attention not only talking to ourselves, but talking to mainstream New Yorkers and even people across the United States. And so we're going to continue with the parade. Obviously, the rebuilding, the recovery, and the renewal of Puerto Rico is going to be front and center. The conversations related to the displaced and the need to continue helping our fellow man that's here, that's moved here, is also going to be part of the conversation. And we have some other causes that we'll be highlighting as well. And so that's our plan. Obviously, we'll continue to be a celebration because, quite honestly, our community also wants to have that time to celebrate our culture and our history, but also to, again, use it as a platform to help educate and inform, particularly our youth, so everybody is informed with what's happening in our community. I'm imagining many of you have the same, but just want to turn it over to you.
Yes, we're also having a parade on September 16th. And we're actually shifting our theme this year towards Puerto Rico, towards African area, of course. We are calling it Puerto Rico Vive. And we are hoping to coordinate with the two welcome centers that were designated in our area, one from Holyoke, which you saw this morning, Betty, and one in Springfield. We're hoping to somehow honor those families. We are working to perhaps have some buses so they can come together and participate and march together. And that's where we are moving forward with the theme and for Puerto Rico.
And similarly, yes, in Camden, New Jersey, we'll continue with our parade. Again, Sunday, June 24th, the last Sunday in June, which coincides this year with La Fiesta de San Juan Bautista. So perfect. And I just wanted to take it a step further from what Luis was saying about how the community wants still to have this celebration and have the parade. I would add a step forward and say that the community needs to have that celebration, have the parades continue. Because of the fact that part of what's so significant of parades and festivals to our community is that it brings the community together, coalesce that community, brings people together. Again, like we mentioned earlier, for networking, for, well, if I can provide this service as a promoter, but you can provide some other type of service, we work together for a common goal. And then I think as we're talking about now, post Maria, what can we do? That's so important to maintain that networking and maintain that sense of community. In addition to what's significant in parades, like I've always said about that historical connection. I've always seen my efforts and our efforts involved with parades as kind of being the connection from past generations. Like I mentioned earlier, my mother was one of the founders of the Parada San Juan Bautista in Camden. But so we have that connection to our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents at this point, and honor them, and who came now to the mainland. And at the same time, we're passing on that culture, passing on that history to our children, our kids, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren. So we're that connection from the past to the present and to the future. And again, to the point about post-Maria, that is very important to maintain. That connection. Tomas?
Well, as part of La Fiesta de la Estancia, our commitment is also to bring the folklore and the music from the island. As you know, they cancel the fiestas patronales. The musicians are, they're suffering a lot over there. So we bringing bands from the island We also, this year, we bring 80 artesanos from Puerto Rico. So for our next edition in January, we're going to double that, just to try to bring them out and help them out. They're suffering right there. There's no Feta Palmares right now. They have canceled festivals, and the funds for doing some festivals down there. And so our commitment is to bring those artistas to Orlando, and also the artists, artesanos and painters and all that, to the artists to the festival.
That's wonderful. Very good. So one more question, and then we'll open it up to questions, and George will be the first one. Just want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges and how we see we can try and address them and overcome them as we continue in this process of keeping true to who we are in terms of our organizations and the celebrations that we want or that we want to hold, while also paying attention, listening to the community, and sometimes taking some of their opinions into mind. And specific to us, our parade has always been founded with activism and a sense of activism in its DNA. Based on some of the experiences the Puerto Rican community in New York was experiencing in the 40s and the 50s here in New York. That's what yielded the parade. It was a march to show who we are truly as a people, to show the best and brightest of who we are. But and it was a celebration, but it was also a statement and a bit of a march, if you will. And we always have that. We always champion certain causes, and we always put things on the table. In most cases, because we are. And our theme is one people, many voices, because we are a diverse community with many thoughts. We try and take a balanced approach. We don't necessarily take a side, but we put it on the table for discussion. And I'll tell you, one of the challenges we have this year is there is certainly some folks expect us to be a little bit more activist in nature than perhaps what is really truly who we are in terms of representing everybody across the country. And so I wanted to just turn it over to you guys to see, are you experiencing similar types of challenges, or are there other challenges that you're experiencing?
Challenges will be, as always, funding. But going back to your point about education, I wanted to also add, for us, it's an opportunity to not only educate the Puerto Rican community, also the larger community, the Anglos, the African Americans, of who we are, why we're here, and our culture. So yes, a challenge, but it's also an opportunity for us. As our new board, we have really made it our focus to unite our community. In the past, we saw the very small group of folks coming together to celebrate the culture. And we are reaching out a larger audience, being able to invite those who don't know why we came here. Folks have this perspective sometimes that we came here, let's be honest, because of welfare. And that's not the reality of things. And through our parade, folks can see people marching down that, who are professionals, who are students, who are college students, who want to, build a better future. So I see it as a huge opportunity for us, even after Hurricane Maria, even for folks who came from Puerto Rico recently, to see that we are here and si se puede, We all came with the same desire, either it was you or it was your grandmother or whoever came from the island to, to grow and to expand. And when they come to our parades and to our festivals this year, I think that they're going to be able to see and feel it, yes, you can do it. You can have your whole family here and you overcome. So.
Great point. Couple things. Well, number one, as Luis was saying initially about how the parade started off as a statement, literally as a march, and that is very true, especially when we think about the backdrop from a political standpoint, even going back to the politics on the island in the 1940s, early 1950s, where it was illegal to raise a Puerto Rico flag, as we know it today. That was a federal crime, right? And then these, Puerto Rico, yo soy boricua, papi, tú no sepas, right? Así es, right? And then these, our founders in terms of the parades, like in New York and other cities throughout the mainland here, were making a statement. We're saying, hey, Yo soy Boricua, right? And we're Puerto Rican, and we're here, and as you were saying, we're here to contribute to the overall society. Yeah? So it's a very proud statement of our own culture. Challenges, yes, as you pointed out, funding. Many of our organizations in terms of parade and festivals are nonprofits, so that's very challenging. Fundraising is nonstop, 24/7, year-round. You know, it's always a big challenge. Also, keeping the almighty tax status, 501c3 tax status, with all the requirements both at the federal and state level. That's a challenge in and of itself, making sure you know everything is up to date and on par and as required. And also another challenge, and I know we face it in Camden, and it's been an issue over the last maybe 20, 25 years more so, the changing demographics of our communities. Yes, a lot of our communities are Latino, but in the last 25 plus years, there's been a change. Many Latinos now are not Boricuas, not from Puerto Rico, you know, from other islands like the Dominican Republic or Mexico or Central America. So the demographic, which, you know, like I said, we celebrate our Puerto Rico parade in Camden. We say everybody's invited. On San Juan Bautista Day, everybody's Puerto Rican. Like for the Irish, on St. Patty's Day, everyone's Irish. Well, on San Juan Bautista Day, everybody's Puerto Rican, regardless of where you came from. And you want to come and celebrate with us, you're more than welcome. You know, we want you to celebrate with us. But again, that's the challenge because, you know, we're saying this is the Puerto Rican parade, but now we got significant groups in the community in terms of population size that are not Puerto Rican. And then how do we deal with that? You know, do we invite them? Yes, absolutely. You know, I know that this has occurred in some municipalities. I remember like in Trenton, New Jersey, years back, they tried to accommodate that by changing it from the Puerto Rican parade to the Latino parade or Hispanic parade. You know, that kind of changes the perspective, changes the mission statement, if you will, of what the parades are about. So those are challenges.
Well, one of the biggest challenges that we have, for the parades and festival is like we need to make the statement to our international friends, you know, that we, the Puerto Ricans, we're now the power here in the United States, and they need to sponsor us, you know. So it's very difficult to go on and they don't give us sponsorship because we're minority groups, but not now. We are now a big power in money spending and all that, and they need to listen to us and start giving us some funding to us. Maybe if we can unite us with the festivals through the Centro, you know, all that, and raise our voices, you know, and go to the national brands to help us out.
Right, well, that's especially the case in Florida, you know, that it's traditionally a red state, right? And here come the Puerto Ricans, so it can potentially shift. New York, you know, we've always tended to be a little bit more democratic leaning, so it's not to say your point isn't valid, it is, but even more so in Florida, Texas, and other markets.
Right. That's one of our biggest challenges right now.
But I do think, and one thing we've learned is to get to this unity is absolutely, it's important, it's paramount. And if we start, you know, breaking off into factions and whatnot, then we're just going to sort of dilute the efforts. And so that's why, again, our theme, our parade at least, is Un Pueblo, Muchas Voces. The Un Pueblo part is paramount. The Muchas Voces part, just have to be able to understand that there are many thoughts. And so in order to continue the conversations and to have effective and productive conversations, we have to be able to listen to each other and work together as opposed to end up
you know, and if I may just add to that piece, that things like parades and festivals are a perfect mechanism to allow, you know, you may have a different perspective politically, you know, Republican, Democrat, or whatever, but we can still work together. We can still come together for the community, for our, nuestro pueblo. So, you know, that's a good point.
Okay, George?
George Torres from Sofeito Media Group. Louis, you said most of what I wanted to say. Thomas, I think that one of the things that I would like to see us do is to take a foundational support of goal. These festivals have a lot of power, they're powerful platforms in each community. Right. And I think that there's a way for us to address some of the sustainable food, energy, and water needs in the country by actually applying another layer of support from the community where we're actually talking about foundations and funding long-term efforts. Currently, Mr. Ideal just got a donation of 15 acres that we are actually using on the island to create a food sustainability program. St. John's University has already stepped up to afford us solar power. And we have a small school that's actually doing a model for us that we could actually apply to the 15 acres. But that's the kind of thing that I think that people would really rally around. And it goes to what you're saying about crossing party lines and the different belief systems. At the end of the day, we all have to eat, we all have to feed each other. So I think that that's probably the first place to look in terms of creating another layer of foundational support that's long-term in nature and not just a year-to-year situation. Thank you.
Anybody want to comment? I can tell you, I agree, we agree wholeheartedly. And as part of this year's dialogue, we have actually are going to be highlighting specific other nonprofit organizations, both on the island as well as here in New York, and hopefully perhaps other parts of the country, and the good works that they're doing. Because again, our infrastructure, we're a parade, but we can use the parade to be able to highlight the work that many of these other organizations are doing. So we're partnering with one organization called Chicas by Alejandra. Their focus is on anti-bullying, because bullying was a problem before hurricane, imagine now, right? It's even worse. Another group called Superhéroes, who really help children who are differently abled, might have some sort of special needs or diverse functionality, who are quite vulnerable now, particularly since therapists are much harder to find. Transportation is much more difficult. Funding, family, the ability for a family to be able to afford it is becoming increasingly challenging. So we're trying to highlight their work. There are other groups in terms of environmental groups or sustainable communities, solar power and seed programs that we're also trying to highlight. And so that's absolutely critical because again, by us providing that platform and providing that highlight, they can just do better work and get increased support.
Yeah, thank you for the support that you lend to the organization.
Yes, my name is Jose Venegas. I'm starting the website and the publication of the business called the Fiesta Journals. I want to ask two questions. How many of you here in this room run a for-profit business?
For-profit?
For-profit. Okay. How many of you know that festivals it's across cultures, and they're a huge business? For example, the Venice Festival. Venice is a city that only has 60,000 people and receives 3 million visitors. This month now, in April, New York City is scheduled to have 12 festivals. The next month will be more. So festivals are a huge business, and I think we fail to see the business side of it, because festivals are part of the entertainment business. There's a movie festival in Tribeca, for example. You also the cars, and so on and so forth. So I think we should put aside our charity perspective and deal with the business aspect, because the most empowering thing that anyone can have is a job. And even more, the ability to create jobs. Because that'll guarantee you housing, et cetera, and will wean you off of dependency that our community has really been addicted to. That's fine.
Okay, thank you, Jose. I appreciate that question. So I do run a for-profit, but that's more on my personal side, my day job, if you will. That's my agency that I run. But the parade itself, our parade is a nonprofit. We are 501c3. So we are not necessarily in the business-making sort of arena, but that does not mean that we do not hire people. We do hire people. We have consultants that we do engage throughout the year. And obviously we do spark economic development based on, the thousands of people that live here. Well, more the people that come in, but also the people that live here. There's thousands of people that come in just for the parade, and they stay at hotels and they spend money at restaurants and they do all that. So there is that business building aspect, even though we are a 501c3. I don't know if you guys.
If I may just add, yes, if I may add, It's a great point. I wholeheartedly agree about, yes, weaning off of dependency, absolutely. But just because an organization is a 501c3 nonprofit entity doesn't mean that it's not run as a business. It is run as a business, and it has to be run as a business. Just because it's not making, for profit, but it's still a business. So you still have to follow that business model, and the recommendation is that yes, even though it's a nonprofit organization for parades, but you still have to have a solid business model and run it as a business. If not, it's gonna fail, and go away. So definitely that aspect is important to maintain. But again, to your point about weaning off the dependency and fending for ourselves and providing for ourselves, absolutely. And that's part of the original point about that, building the community, promoting the community, coalescing the community, that networking. That's part of it.
Advancing education is an important part of it as well.
Yes.
Tomas, did you want to say anything?
No, so as my business, there's something that I always say is hay que dar para recibir. So it's not making the money, because doing a festival, everyone can do a festival, but there's a lot of risk. Rains, weather conditions, and you have to have the money to pagar la cuenta, and all that. So it's not easy to task, it's a lot of work and a lot of risk too. But sometimes you can win, sometimes you can lose. But the most thing is that we bring the joy to the people. That's my major thing, bring the joy. Because the only thing that Puerto Rican we can unite is like with the national team or doing a party.
Right.
That's the only way that Puerto Ricans can get together,
Very good. There's a question back there?
Yeah, my question is, are there any military veterans in your respective parades, respective cities that are being honored this year? Because we all know by now, whenever this country wants to engage in combat, they come to our communities first. Fuck us. Any military veterans being honored, that would keep the conversation going.
Yeah, every year we do. I'll tell you, the biggest was a couple years ago where we, when the Rican year still hadn't received their Congressional Gold Medal, where we did make that one of our causes, if you will, was to really sort of ask Congress and ask President Obama at the time to grant that Congressional Gold Medal. We weren't the only ones, and we're not going to take credit for it, but we would like to say that we gave that little extra push so that actually did happen, so that by the time the parade came, they were honored with that medal. We've done other veterans since, and unfortunately, we are, because of what happened with the National Guard's airmen, we are going to be honoring them, but more in a posthumous honor as opposed to the current, but that is the plan, is to bring some recognition to those airmen that lost their lives just a couple weeks ago.
Just briefly to your point, this year, not in particular for honoring veterans, but in past years we have. And once in a while you may shift gears and the focus or theme for a particular year. So not this year in particular, but we've had it in the past.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt. Lunch is being served downstairs if you guys don't mind.
Okay.
Starting to wrap
We'll
up.
be wrapping up soon.
Okay, so there's sandwiches downstairs and you can take them upstairs to the cars.
Okay.
We have in the past, one of our founders is a veteran. We have honored the 60th Infantry. We're actually under the umbrella of the bilingual veteran organization. But you have a really good point, I'm taking it home. We should honor a veteran of the year every year. Thank you. That is a great point.
One more question because of lunch, and then I have a question for y'all out of obligation to Centro. I think first, because you had your hand up for a while.
How progressive in welcoming our own peace celebrations parades of the LGBT communities?
Well, actually 2 years. Marriage equality and LGBT rights was a central theme to our parade. Unfortunately, it actually happened the same day as the Pulse nightclub shooting. So that morning in 2016, we woke up to the Pulse nightclub shooting, which happened to be the exact same day that we had a whole theme around LGBT rights and marriage equality. But we often have, since then we've had groups, especially leading up to the Pride Parade, that have participated in our parade. So it is a central.
I'm asking because I was a member of an organization called Latino Gateway of New York, and we were allowed once to participate in the Parada Boricua, but we were at the very end, and the mocking and the incredible insults that were thrown at us were kind of reflective of the times. This was like 20 years ago.
Luckily, and we were worried about the same, I will tell you, when we had that tribute to the LGBT community. But I'm very happy to say we did not see, I mean, I'm sure there was some, you know, there's a long stretch on Fifth Avenue, but most of the LGBT community and the group that was represented and all the honorees, we celebrated several honorees, were well received and cheered on. And again, it was apropos because of what happened in Orlando. And just, you know, underscored
because we were at the very end, at the beginning, at the very end of the march. And then right behind us came the sanitation trucks.
Really quick, we do have groups who march, but we also have board members sitting at the table, making decisions who are part of the community.
Yeah.
Progress.
Absolutely. Okay, so the question I have for the panelists and actually for everybody is, when it comes to this type of work, what can an organization like Centro do to help, you know, galvanize us and help move our collective work forward? Just any thoughts?
Share information.
Share information. Okay.
I myself am interested in starting a parade from like you, I'm from Laredo, Ohio, so it's 20 minutes out completely.
Yep.
So just sharing information, sharing your expertise or your knowledge would be awesome.
Let's talk.
So I started a Facebook group a couple of weeks ago for us to network, and I think it will be helpful if we have, I know in the past Centro has had their own event for us, but I think perhaps we can have one where we can talk about looking for grants, starting your own foundation, looking for sponsors, how to do it, like
So
you guys have
capacity
tools, you
building.
know, capacity
Capacity
building
building.
for us, whether it is in person or virtually.
Sure.
And on that point, the Centro can continue with bringing together the various parade organizations. Maria Roman and I years ago were involved with an annual conference that we would put together of all the different Puerto Rican parades and festivals throughout the region. And then we opened it up nationwide, basically. It was difficult, challenging, with changes in demographics and then changes in administrations. But one of the things that El Centro can do is to carry the ball and continue with putting together functions like this for sharing information. And again, maybe having particular conference or meetings with the parade organizations to focus on the needs of parade organizations.
Okay, two last questions, and then we have to go to lunch because these people are starting. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, nice to see you, the next person. My name is Elizabeth Abraham. I live in New York City. And I wanted to start because we have the one particular things or kind of questions, not going to be commentary. A comment is, I have to ask, what happened after what happened with the crisis in Puerto Rico? I got Black more involved because I'm concerned with Puerto Rico. But when they went to the Puerto Rican parade the previous year, 2017, there were some changes where some of the businesses were out. Sometimes I can't find words, I have aphasia. And it so happens there weren't so many people in the parade. And I know that and I'm not competing or anything or advocate or anything. Well, I am an advocate, but I'm not a radical. And there was a walk in the Puerto Rican parade in 2017. And I walked from the end to the beginning. And a lot of people, they need to get, the main subject is educated, because some people did not even want to touch, did not even understand the symbolic. It's just two hates. It's a moment of silence and a condolence of Puerto Rico. And two, there may be other positions of, choice of PNP or whatever. But what happened to that parade in terms of the difference? And it was different because the people were waking up or shaking up in one way that is good. And the second question, which I really would like to get this particular answer, is when I was expressing my feelings and emotions of Puerto Rico, and I gotta tell everybody, I'm from the Pueblo de Guayana, and we know there's witches, right? And I say, I wrote a letter and I got some assistance from another state for my help. And I presented a proposal of a moment of silence. And the purple of silence, everybody was responding, hey, so what is this? And I think it was excellent in terms of the recognition of the congressman and to the artists and the concerns of educating the people. But about 5-6 months ago, there was a silence. It was a walk. And approximately by 95th Street, right by that symbolic place, 30th Street. And there was a silence, which was fantastic. And some of the people, I think, they seem to be more, in terms of all the things from the inside, but it was done graciously. And when that walk, it was a lot of people. And getting to the point is, when I come here to the Puerto Rican parade is the biggest place to communicate with people and to educate the people. And of course, the Ruta Bailar, fantastic. But right now, we're at the moment where this is business, whatever terms, to have a plan. And the question is, to your colleagues, is it possible and realistically, can there be through other boroughs or, state, New Jersey, leadership as yourself, that there would be an occasion or a moment or place where there be a moment of silence where the people could think, reflect, thinking of a sense of showing solidarity with other popular, whatever.
Sure. No, and we discussed your idea last year, and I think even the year before. And I remember explaining to you that we tried the silence thing, specifically with the Caño Martín Peña issue back in 2016. It didn't work. Because how are you going to get 1 million Puerto Ricans on Fifth Avenue to be silent? It just is not going to happen. Especially, please let me finish. Especially once the parade gets going. So rather than taking silence, we opted for dialogue. And dialogue in terms of not only in terms of on camera and the TV broadcast and what we were discussing and all the issues related to the economic crisis and all the challenges in Puerto Rico that were happening, we were talking about them. And the actual participants in the parade, which they came up by themselves, but you saw activist groups, whether they were the students from the UPR or other activist groups that were also using their voices to try and get the dialogue going, because silence can be reflective and it can certainly be effective, I think, in the right venue. I don't know that the parade with that many people and that many participants, and because it is an operation, because we have NYPD on our, trying to keep things going, is not the place to do it. But we try and do it in other ways. Okay, Judge, you have a question?
Very, very brief. To the question about what Centro can do, I think that we need to think about putting together an emergency response team that reflects leaders in the community, because hurricane season is coming together again. But there are other things that come up from time to time that address a lot of human concerns, not just political concerns. So I think that they should create some type of, there's a perfect organization position to be able to galvanize everybody together into a critical response team. So we can get information out quickly and effectively.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Buen provecho. Enjoy lunch.